the one who sent down the book unto his servant Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and has not placed therein any crookedness. And may the peace and blessings of Allah the Almighty be upon him, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, his family members, his companions, and whoever follow their footsteps to the day of judgment and to proceed. Dear brothers and sisters in Islam, in our last khutbah, we spoke about the virtue of fasting outside the month of Ramadan. And we mentioned many ahadith from the Prophet ﷺ that encourage us to fast the 3 days of Ayyamul Bid, the white days, and fasting on Mondays and Tuesdays, and many other forms of fasting like the fasting of Siyam Dawood alayhi salatu wassalam. But not everyone can fast due to their health conditions. Or some people may find fasting very hard upon them because of the nature of their work. And it is from the mercy of this religion that Allah the Almighty has legislated for us different forms of worship, so that if you are not able to perform one act of worship because of financial reason or because of health reason, there are other forms of worship that you can perform. That is why when the poor people came to the Prophet ﷺ complaining about the rich people, they said, Ya Rasulallah, ذهب أهل الدثور بالأجور. They said, Oh Messenger of Allah, the rich people have taken away all the reward. يصلون كما نصلي ويصومون كما نصوم ويتصدقون بفضول أموالهم. They said the rich people fast as we fast, which is referring to the obligatory fasting, because everybody has to fast. وَيَصُومُونَ كَمَا نَصُومُ, and وَيَصَلُّونَ كَمَا نُصَلِّي, and they pray as we pray. However, they give charity with the extra money that they have. So the Prophet ﷺ said to them, but this is not the only way or the only means of giving charity that is legislated for you. إِنَّ بِكُلِّ تَسْبِيحَةٍ صَدَقَةٍ. Indeed, every subhanallah that you say is a charity. وَكُلِّ تَحْمِيدَةٍ صَدَقَةٍ, and every alhamdulillah that you say is a charity. وَأَمْرٍ بِمَعْرُوفٍ صَدَقَةٍ وَنَهْيٍ عَنْ مُنْكَرٍ صَدَقَةٍ, and commending the good is a charity, and forbidding evil is a charity. But being able to combine between different forms of worship is always the best. It is like eating different kinds of food. The one who eats vegetable and eats meat and eats carbohydrate, he balances his diet. Just like the one who is fasting and praying and giving charity, he balances this act of worship, and the more acts of worship you perform, the better it is for your heart. The one who fasts and then stand in the night and prays, and who gives charity is not like the one who just fasts and don't stand in the night and prays, or the one who just gives charity and don't do fasting. So the more acts of worship you perform, the better it is for your heart. That is why when the Prophet ﷺ was with his companions one day, he asked them, Man asbaha minkum al-yawma sa'ima. He said, who amongst you reached the day in the state of fasting? And Abu Bakr said, Ana. He said, I, O Messenger of Allah. And then he said, وَمَنْ أَطْعَمَ مِنْكُمُ الْيَوْمَ مِسْكِينًا. Who amongst you fed the poor today? قال Abu Bakr, Ana. Abu Bakr again said, I, O Messenger of Allah. And then he said, وَمَنْ تَبِعَ مِنْكُمُ الْيَوْمَ جِنَازَةً. Who amongst you followed the funeral today? Abu Bakr said, I. And then he said, and who amongst you visited the sick today? وَمَنْ عَادَ مِنْكُمُ الْيَوْمَ مَرِيضًا. Abu Bakr said, I. And then the Prophet said, if these qualities are found in an individual, Jannah will be his abode. So we ask Allah the Almighty to make us among those who balance our acts of worship, not those who just stick to one form of worship and not do the other, as long as we have the ability to do so. Inshallah, today we'll talk about another act of worship or form of worship which we have performed in the month of Ramadan, but it's also required from us to perform this act of worship throughout the months of the year, and that is the Qiyamul Layl. If you read the Quran, you will come across many verses where Allah the Almighty is commending the Prophet ﷺ to stand in the night and pray. If you read Surah Al-Muzammil, and this is one of the first verses that were revealed to the Prophet ﷺ, Allah the Almighty commend the Prophet saying, Ya ayyuhal muzammil, qumil layla illa qalila. He said, oh, he who is wrapped up. And this is referring to the Prophet ﷺ when he left the cave of Hira after he saw Jibril alayhi salatu wasalam in the state that he was created. He came to his home terrified, filled with horror, because he has never seen something like this. So he said to his family, Zammiluni, Zammiluni, Dathiruni, Dathiruni. Wrap me up, wrap me up. That is why Allah the Almighty said, Ya ayyuhal muzammil, O he who is wrapped up. The Allah the Almighty said, Qum min layla illa qalila. Stand in the night in praise except for a little. And this is the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam whom Allah the Almighty is commending to stand in the night in prayer in order to strengthen his faith. How about us? We are more in need of that. So we ask Allah the Almighty to make us among those who follow the footsteps of the Prophet, peace be upon him. Ameen. And if we read Surah Al-Insan, Allah the Almighty also addressed the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, reminding him of his bounties on him and also commanding him to be grateful to Allah the Almighty for these bounties by glorifying Allah the Almighty and by prostrating during the hours of the night to show his gratefulness. Allah the Almighty said, Inna nahnu nazzalna alayka al-Qur'ana tanzila. He said, indeed, it is us who have revealed the Quran to you with a revelation. فَاصْبِرْ لِحُكْمِ رَبِّكَ وَلَا تُطِعْ مِنْهُمْ آثِمًا أَوْ كَفُورًا. Therefore, submit patiently to the command of your Lord, and do not follow from them anyone who is sinful and anyone who is ungrateful to his Lord. Then God said, وَاذْكُرِ اسْمَ رَبِّكَ بُكْرَةً وَأَصِيلًا. And remember the name of your Lord during the hours of the day and during the hours of the evening. وَمِنَ اللَّيْلِ فَاسْجُدِ لَهُ وَسَبِّحْهُ لَيْلًا طَوِيلًا. And from the hours of the night, prostrate to Allah the Almighty. Stand in the night in prayer. وَسَبِّحْهُ لَيْلًا طَوِيلًا. And glorify the name of Allah the Almighty in those long nights. How do you do this? You have to stand in the night in prayer and turn to Allah the Almighty and cry to Him and mention His name and glorify Him with Subhanallah, Walhamdulillah, wa la ilaha illallah, Wallahu Akbar. By doing this, you are showing gratefulness to Allah the Almighty and you are showing your concern about the hereafter. Because those who do not do this are not showing concern about the hereafter. That is why Allah the Almighty said afterwards, إِنَّ هَؤُلَاءِ يُحِبُّونَ الْعَاجِلَةَ وَيَذَرُونَ وَرَاءَهُمْ يَوْمًا ثَقِيلًا. He said, indeed, these people, they love the present life of this dunya. There is nothing wrong with loving the dunya. However, if the love of the dunya distracted you from glorifying your Lord, from praying, from fasting, from doing what God commands you to do, then this is a curse upon you. So we ask Allah the Almighty not to make us among those who allow the love of the dunya to distract them from glorifying their Lord and from praying and establishing the prayer in order to show gratefulness to Allah the Almighty. Ameen. So if you look at this verse, Allah the Almighty mentioned first the bounty that He bestowed upon the Prophet, which is the revelation of the Quran. This is also a great bounty upon us. Like He the Almighty mentioned in Surah Al Imran, saying, لَقَدْ مَنَّ اللَّهُ عَلَى الْمُؤْمِنِينَ إِذْ بَعَثَ فِيهِمْ رَسُولًا مِنْ أَنفُسِهِمْ يَتْلُو عَلَيْهِمْ آيَاتِهِ وَيُزَكِّيهِمْ وَيُعَلِّمُهُمُ الْكِتَابَ وَالْحِكْمَةَ وَإِنْ كَانُوا مِنْ قَبْلُ لَفِي ضَلَالٍ مُبِينٍ. God said, indeed, He, Allah the Almighty, has bestowed His favor upon the believers when He sent from them, among them, a messenger who is reciting to them His verses, who is purifying them, who is teaching them, even though they were before the coming of the Prophet ﷺ upon a clear misguidance. So this indicates that the revelation of the Quran is a great bounty on us, as it is of the Prophet ﷺ. Therefore, it is required from us to submit to the command of Allah the Almighty patiently. And this also means that it is not easy to fulfill the commands of Allah the Almighty. Prayer needs patience. Fasting needs patience. Giving charity needs patience. That's why Allah the Almighty said to the Prophet فَاصْبِرْ لِحُكْمِ رَبِّكَ. Be patient with carrying out the commands of your Lord. So we ask Allah the Almighty to adorn us with that patience. Ameen. And likewise, Allah the Almighty commended the Prophet ﷺ in Surah Al-Isra, saying, أَقِمِ الصَّلَاةَ لِدُلُوكِ الشَّمْسِ إِلَى غَسَقِ اللَّيْلِ وَقُرْآنَ الْفَجْرِ إِنَّ قُرْآنَ الْفَجْرِ كَانَ مَشْهُودًا. If you have a child with you, could you please get the kid next to you, please? If you have a child with you, just get the child and keep him next to you. It's okay, you can walk out of the congregation and go get your child, please. We don't want children running around. Thank you very much. So Allah the Almighty commanded the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He said, "Aqim as-salata liduluki shams." He said, establish the prayer, and this is referring to the 5 daily prayers. the duluki shams, at the inclining of the sun after midday. And this is referring to Salatul Dhuhr and Salatul Asr. Ila Gasatil Layl, till the darkness of the night. And this is referring to Salatul Maghrib and Salatul Isha. Wa Quran al-Fajr, and the Quran of the dawn. And this is referring to the Salat al-Fajr. And these are the 5 daily prayers altogether that Allah the Almighty has commanded the Prophet ﷺ to establish. Allah the Almighty says, أقم الصلاة لدلوك الشمس إلى غسق الليل وقرآن الفجر إن قرآن الفجر كان مشهودا. The Allah the Almighty says, indeed, the Quran of the dawn, which is the Fajr prayer, is witnessed by the angels. So we ask Allah the Almighty again to make us among those who establish the Fajr prayer in particular. Ameen. Then the Prophet Allah the Almighty said, وَمِنَ اللَّيْلِ فَتَهَجَّدْ بِهِ نَافِلَةً لَكَ. Commanded the Prophet ﷺ to stand in the night in order to pray, seeking with that spiritual supplement from Allah the Almighty. نَافِلَةً لَكَ عَسَىٰ أَن يَبْعَثَكَ رَبُّكَ مَقَامًا مَحْمُودًا. Perhaps your Lord will raise you up on the day of judgment and grant you the praiseworthy position. What is that praiseworthy position? The praiseworthy position is the position that will be given to the Prophet ﷺ on the day of judgment, when Allah the Almighty will gather the people from the beginning of the creation to the ending of the creation, the mankind, the jinnkind, the animals, and the angels. All together, we will stand to be held accountable on the day of judgment. And nobody on that day will talk, because Allah the Almighty is angry at what the people do when they were in this dunya and how they disobey Allah the Almighty. So we will be standing, waiting patiently for Allah the Almighty to judge between us. And we will go to Adam alayhi salatu wasalam, asking him to intercede for us. And we will say to Adam, Ya Adam, Anta Abul Bashar. O Adam, you are the father of the creatures. Khalaqaka Allahu biyadi. God created you with his hands. وَأَسْجَدَ لَكَ مَلَائِكَةً. And he commanded his angels to bow to you out of respect and honor. وَنَفَخَ فِيكَ مِنْ رُوحِهِ. And he blew in you from his spirit. وَأَدْخَلَكَ فِي جَنَّتِهِ. And he put you in his Jannah. Therefore we are asking you to intercede with your Lord for us. And Adam will say, this day is not my position. I can't do that. Go to Nuh alayhi salatu wassalam. So we will go to Nuh alayhi salatu wassalam. And we will say to Nuh, Ya Nuh, Anta awwalur rusul. Anta alladhi sammaka Allahu abidan shakura. Fashfa' lana inda rabbik. We say, oh no, you are the first of the messengers. And you are the one whom Allah the Almighty named Abdin Shakura, the grateful servant. Therefore, we are asking you to intercede for us with your Lord. And Noah will say, this position is not mine. Go to Abraham. And we will go to Abraham and we will say to him, Anta alladhi ittakhadhaka Allahu khalila. You are the one whom Allah the Almighty chose to be his what? His best friend. Therefore, we are asking you to intercede for us this day. Abraham will say, this is not my position. And he will guide us to Musa alayhi salatu wasalam. And we will come to Musa alayhi salatu wasalam. And we will say to him, you are the one, kallamaka Allahu taklima. You are the one whom Allah the Almighty honored by speaking directly to you. Therefore, we're asking you to intercede with your Lord for us. And Musa will say, this is not my position. And he will guide us to Isa alayhi salatu wasalam. And we will come to Isa and we will say to him, you are the Ruhullah. You are the Kalimatullah. You are the one whom Allah the Almighty fortified with all kinds of miracles that amaze the creatures. Therefore, we're asking you to intercede with your Lord for us this day. And Isa will say, this is not my position, and he will guide us to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Or we'll come to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The Prophet will say, Ana laha. This position is my position. This position is my position. And the Prophet will prostrate to his Lord, and he will glorify Allah the Almighty with glorification that Allah the Almighty will taught him on that day. Then Allah the Almighty will say to him, rise up, raise your hand. Request and your request shall be given. Intercede and your intercession shall be granted. So this is the Maqam al-Mahmuda, the praiseworthy position that Allah the Almighty will give the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And this is the reason why when the adhan is over, the Prophet commanded us to make this dua. Allahumma rabba hadhihi da'wa at-tamma والصلاة القائمة آت محمدا الوسيلة والفضيلة والدرجة الرفيعة وبعث اللهم مقاما محمودا الذي وأنت. So the Maqam al-Mahmuda, which is the praiseworthy position that we ask Allah the Almighty to give the Prophet on the day of judgment, This is the praiseworthy position. So we ask Allah the Almighty to make us among those who learn this dua and say it for the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Ameen. Then Allah the Almighty taught the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam what to say while he was standing in the night to praise. He said, وَقُلْ رَبِّ أَدْخِلْنِي مُدْخَلَ صِدْقٍ وَأَخْرِجْنِي مُخْرَجَ صِدْقٍ وَاجْعَلْ لِي مِن لَّدُنكَ سُلْطَانًا نَصِيرًا. And say, oh my Lord, cause me to come in with a firm incoming, and cause me to go out with a firm outgoing, and grant me from you a triumph evidence. Our scholars interpretate this dua that Allah the Almighty commanded the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam to ask him, to cause him to come into the truth with firm incoming, and to go out of falsehood with firm outgoing, and to grant him from him a proof, an unequivocal proof with which he can crush falsehood. Because how many people come into the truth but not with firm incoming? And how many people come out of falsehood but not with not with firm outcoming? So as a result, their faith is what? Is shaken, is wobbling, it's not firm. That's why the Prophet ﷺ taught us to make this dua, saying, Allahumma arina al-haqqa haqqan warzuqna ittiba'a wa arina al-batila batilan warzuqna ijtinaba. Oh Allah, we're asking you to show us truth as it is and help us to follow it. And show us falsehood as it is and help us to stay away from it. Because it will amaze you that some people are blinded from the truth, even though it is crystal clear. It is because Allah the Almighty did not open their hearts to that. And not because, it is only because they did not want their hearts to be open to that. So Allah the Almighty also did not open their hearts to that. And we will explain this along the way. So Allah the Almighty said to the Prophet ﷺ, قُلْ جَاءَ الْحَقُّ وَزَهَقَ الْبَاطِلُ إِنَّ الْبَاطِلَ كَانَ زَهُوقًا. And say, the truth has come and falsehood has vanished. إِنَّ الْبَاطِلَ كَانَ زَهُوقًا. Indeed, falsehood is ever bound to vanish. So after asking Allah the Almighty to grant you from His presence a triumph proof, what is the proof? Allah the Almighty said the proof has come. قُلْ جَاءَ الْحَقِّ. Say the truth has come. And the truth is Quran. The truth is Al-Islam. وَزَهَقَ الْبَاطِلِ. And falsehood has vanished. إِنَّ الْبَاطِلَ كَانَ زَهُوقًا. Falsehood is ever bound to vanish. That is why Islam, wherever Islam comes, it just grow and grow and grow. The falsehood will disappear. No matter what people do to turn people away from the truth, they can't, because the truth stands for itself. And I don't know nowhere where Islam is declining. Everywhere that I know is Islam is what? Is growing and is growing and is growing. Because Allah the Almighty said, قُلْ جَاءَ الْحَقُّ وَزَهَقَ الْبَاطِلُ إِنَّ الْبَاطِلَ كَانَ زَهُوقًا. The Allah the Almighty said, وَنُنَزِّلُ مِنَ الْقُرْآنِ مَا هُوَ شِفَاءٌ وَرَحْمَةٌ لِلْمُؤْمِنِينَ. And we send down in this Quran that which is a healing. It's a healing for our hearts. وَرَحْمَةٌ لِلْمُؤْمِنِينَ. And it is a blessing for the believers. Then Allah the Almighty said, وَلَا يَزِيدُ الظَّالِمِينَ إِلَّا خَسَارًا. But as for the wrongdoing folk, the Quran only increased them in loss. It only increased them in deviation from the path. The reason being is because in their hearts there is deviation. That is why Allah the Almighty said, فَأَمَّا الَّذِينَ فِي قُلُوبِهِمْ زَيْغٌ فَيَتَّبِعُونَ مَا تَشَابَهَ مِنْهُ. The problem is not in the Quran, the problem is in us. Those who do not want to follow the truth, they follow the controversial verses of the Quran, seeking its ta'wil, seeking its interpretation. And even if the interpretation comes to them, they still reject it out of their ego and out of their desire. So we ask Allah the Almighty to make us among those who follow the truth, and those who allow their reason to overcome their desire, ameen. And those who allow their reason to overcome their ego, ameen. So Allah the Almighty said, وَلَا يَزِيدُ الظَّالِمِينَ إِلَّا خَسَارًا. But as for the wrongdoing people, the Quran only increases them in their loss. We ask Allah the Almighty not to make us amongst them, ameen. أقول ما تسمعون وأستغفر الله العظيم لي ولكم والتائب من الذنب كمن لا ذنب له ادعوا الله يستجب لكم واستغفروه يغفر لكم. Alhamdulillahi wa kafa. ثم الصلاة والسلام على عباده الذين اصطفى وبعد. Dear brothers and sisters in Islam, I would like to remind you once again to say this dua and learn it. If you don't know it, learn this dua that Allah the Almighty taught the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam to say, and that is وَقُلْ رَبِّ أَدْخِلْنِي مُدْخَلَ صِدْقٍ وَأَخْرِجْنِي مُخْرَجَ صِدْقٍ وَاجْعَلْ لِي مِن لَّدُنكَ سُلْطَانًا نَصِيرًا. Oh Allah, I'm asking you to cause me to come in to the truth with firm incoming, and to come out of falsehood with firm outcoming, and to bless me from your presence a triumph proof, meaning an unequivocal proof with which I can crush the falsehood. And also remember to pray to Allah the Almighty, asking Him with what the Prophet ﷺ taught us to pray. Allahumma adina al-haqqa haqqan warzuqna ittiba'ah wa adina al-batila batilan warzuqna ijtinaba. Oh Allah, allow us to see the truth as it is and help us to follow the truth. And allow us to see falsehood as it is and help us to stay away from it. Because the best thing you can ask Allah the Almighty is to ask Him to guide you to the straight path. Our noble scholar Ibn al-Qayyim, he mentioned the importance of asking Allah the Almighty to keep us firm upon the path. He said, if we cannot get something from this dunya except with the help of Allah the Almighty, how about something from the hereafter, which is more precious? That is why the Prophet ﷺ taught Mu'adh ibn Jabal. He said to him, Ya Mu'adh, inni uhibbuk. He said, oh Mu'adh, indeed I love you. Therefore, la tansa an taqula dubra kulli salat. Do not forget to say after every prayer, Allahumma inni ala dhikrik wa shukrik wa husni ibadatik. Oh Allah, help me to be grateful to you. Help me to be mindful of you, and help me to worship you in the best manner. This is because we need the help and the support of Allah the Almighty to keep us firm upon this faith. And if you read the Quran, you will come across many verses where Allah the Almighty spoke about the believers. Their dua is, رَبِّ أَفْرِغْ عَلَيْنَا رَبَّنَا أَفْرِغْ عَلَيْنَا صَبْرًا وَثَبِّتْ أَقْدَامَنَا وَانصُرْنَا عَلَى الْقَوْمِ الْكَافِرِينَ. They ask Allah the Almighty to bestow upon them patience with which they can fulfill the commands of Allah the Almighty and to keep their feet firm upon the truth. So we ask Allah the Almighty to keep us firm upon the truth. Ameen. I'll end the khutbah by mentioning the hadith that is narrated by Bayhaqi, and our noble scholar Imam al-Albani graded this hadith authentic, in which the Prophet ﷺ mentioned that Jibreel ﷺ came to him and said to him, Ya Jibreel Muhammad, Ish ma shi'ta fa innaka mayyitun. He said, oh Muhammad, live the number of years that you want, but know that one day you will die. وَأَحْبِبْ مَنْ شِئْتَ فَإِنَّكَ مُفَارِقُ. Show love to whoever you want to show love to, your wife, your children, your best friends, but know that one day you will be separated from them. وَأْمَنْ مَا شِئْتَ فَإِنَّكَ مَجْزِيٌّ بِهِ. And do what you want. If you want, pray. If you want, don't pray. If you want, fast. If you want, don't fast. If you want, believe. If you want, reject the faith. But know that one day you will stand before Allah the Almighty to be held accountable for your deeds. Then he said, وَعْلَمْ أَنَّ شَرَفَ الْمُؤْمِنِ قِيَامُ اللَّيْلِ. And know that the honor of the believer is in Qiyamul Layl, standing in the night in praise. وَعِزَّهُ فِي اسْتِغْنَائِهِ عَنِ النَّاسِ. And the integrity of the believer. The dignity of the believer is in him renouncing what is in the hands of the people. Meaning he's not after the people. He's always content with what he has. He will not beg the people. He will not ask the people. He's always content with what he has, and he's always doing whatever he could in order to remain independent from the people. That is the dignity and the integrity of the believer. So we ask Allah the Almighty to make us among those who remember these reminders. Ameen. Remember that one day you will die, no matter how long you live. Then this will help you to do what is right. And remember that whoever you show love to, one day you'll be separated from him, your wife, your children. So try to do the best that you can to help them so that you can meet in the hereafter in Jannah. And remember that everything that you do, you'll be held accountable for that. And that the honor of the believer is in him standing in the night in praise. So let us try the best that we can. The easiest thing you can do is to pray 2 rak'ah after Isha. Whoever prayed, the Prophet ﷺ said, whoever prayed 2 rak'ah after Isha has prayed Qiyamul Layl. And that's the minimum you can do. And inshallah, next week we'll mention more about Qiyamul Layl. and how Allah the Almighty mentioned about the pious people in the Quran and how they spend their night with their Lord. Today we mention about the Prophet ﷺ and how God commanded him to stand in the night in prayer. So we ask Allah the Almighty to make us among those who follow the footsteps of the Prophet ﷺ. Ameen. اللهم أرنا الحق حقا وارزقنا اتباعه وأرنا الباطل باطلا وارزقنا اجتنابه. اللهم إنا نسألك أن تدخلنا مدخل صدق وأن تخرجنا مخرج صدق وأن تجعل لنا من لدنك سلطانا نصيرا. اللهم أفرج علينا صبرا وثبت أقدامنا وانصرنا على القوم الكافرين. اللهم أفرج علينا صبرا وثبت أقدامنا وانصرنا على القوم الكافرين. اللهم إنا نسألك الجنة ونعوذ بك من النار. اللهم من أحييته منا فأحيه على الإسلام ومن توفيته منا فتوفه على الإيمان. اللهم لا تدع لنا في مجلسنا هذا ذنبا إلا غفرته ولا هما إلا فرجته ولا دينا إلا قضيته ولا دينا إلا قضيته ولا مريضا إلا شفيته ولا ضالا إلا هديته ولا ضالا إلا هديته ولا مبتدعا إلا هديته ولا مبتدعا إلا هديته ولا حاجة من هوائج الدنيا التي هي لك رضا ولنا فيها صلاة إلا يسرتها برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين ويا رب العالمين. وصل اللهم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا. قوموا إلى صلاتكم.